Hi, Hugh Taylor here, coming to you from my messy home office. And I want to bring to you the first in what I hope will be a series of public relations tips and tricks. And in this first part, I want to deal with something that I am talking to people about every day, which is forbidden topics. There are certain businesses, certain kinds of stories that the press and especially press release distributors will not take. And I want to talk about what they are so that you can understand if this is what you're involved in, what your options are, and some ways to handle the challenge. So first, let's talk about what the forbidden topics are. Now, this is just a selection. This is not the entire list, and as you can see, there's already a lot of forbidden topics. And just to be specific, this is the EIN Presswire list of editorial subjects they will not accept as press releases. So this is one press release distributor's list of forbidden topics, and it's pretty standard. If you went to PR Newswire or Globe Newswire or some of the others, they would probably have a very similar list. And I just want to run down most of them because it's important to understand where they're coming from. And what they're saying is that the media outlets that they work with, the press, the radio stations, the TV stations, the newspaper websites that they place or syndicate your press release onto will turn down press releases that deal with these contents. So if you have a sexually explicit content like adult entertainment or something, they won't take it. And the reason is, if you think about it, I'm not making a value judgment, I'm just looking at it as if you were like a radio station. You don't want adult entertainment content on your radio station website, so they will not accept a press release with that sort of subject. Similarly, they won't take anything for sexual enhancement products like erectile dysfunction, any kind of pharmaceutical or nutraceutical supplement, health supplement, weight loss, online pharmaceutical, things that are, from their perspective, not legitimate or not good for their brand. I mean, that's something to appreciate, that when you put a press release on someone else's website, it affects their brand, at least in theory. Then there are topics that have to do with liability. So, for example, this comes up a lot. People want me to write press releases about lawsuits or criminal cases. And EIN and others have a very strict rule against third-party legal releases, meaning that if you are not a party to litigation, if you're not the plaintiff or the defendant or one of the attorneys, they will not take a press release from you because they don't want someone suing them saying, hey, you just defamed me in a press release on your website. So in that case, for example, if you can prove that you are the plaintiff or defendant or the attorney and you have referenced a specific case number, then they will publish the press release. Stock recommendations or unauthorized ticker symbols, also a big no-no. And there's been some notorious cases of people issuing false, forged press releases, basically saying that they represent a publicly traded company, coming out with some news causing the stock to go up or down on the stock market, and it wasn't really coming from the company in question. And there have been some cases of, multi-million-dollar liability lawsuits over situations like this. So press release distributors are very cautious about publishing any kind of press release that references a publicly traded company, and you probably have to prove, for example, with an email address, that you are a representative of that company, or that you have their permission to make announcements on their behalf. And then there's topics like guns or tobacco that are just controversial. And although what's funny to me is that I don't think guns are really all that controversial anymore. I mean, but media sites don't want to run press releases about gun-related news. It's just a policy they have. So those are some of the forbidden topics. There are others. So if you're in one of these businesses, you might be thinking, what am I going to do? I can't do anything about it. So let's talk about it. All right. And there's some good news and some bad news. So what can you do about this? And I will tell you, unfortunately, in some cases, there's nothing you can do about it. If you make or sell guns, or if you are in the adult entertainment industry, you might just not be able to get a press release distributed. Now, you may be able to get media coverage. This is a distinction, and I'll give you an example. And I'll give you some more examples in a minute. But I have a client who is a betting consultant. He basically, gives out betting tips. Now, in theory, that's like a completely off-limits topic. But if you look carefully, you will see there are reporters who write about sports betting. So I was able to get him some press coverage and some press interviews by reaching out to reporters who cover sports betting, because for them, betting is not a forbidden topic. It's what they talk about. So now it's easier said than done. It was not an easy process, but I'm just saying you shouldn't think, oh, there's no hope. There may be something. So, but I want to talk about generally two alternative PR strategies that can potentially, but not guaranteed, overcome this forbidden topic problem. One is to position yourself as an expert spokesman on the issues involved in the industry. The other is to make an indirect news announcement. So let me explain what those are. So the expert spokesperson, or source, or on-air guest, sort of three versions of the same idea, is that if you are in one of these forbidden topics, let's say that you are, let's go to the examples. So let's say that you're in the supplement business. So one approach to getting a press release distributed if you're in the supplement business is to position yourself or someone in your company as an expert in the area of the supplements. So if it's a fitness supplement, you could position yourself as a fitness expert. So it's more, the issue is kind of what you lead with. What does the headline of the press release say? Because if the headline says, new supplement helps you lose weight and get fit, that is 100% going to be turned down by the distributor. However, if the headline says fitness expert offers advice on losing weight, then it's more about the person. It's not about the supplement. And somewhere in the press release, you can talk about the supplements and have a link to the supplement brand, the website, and that might work. Can't guarantee it'll work, but that's a lot better thing to try than just going out with your supplement and get turned down. Similarly, with tobacco, this would even be harder, but I'm just giving you a way to think about it. And I did write some press releases on this topic, although I didn't distribute them, that someone who ran a tobacco store positioned himself as an expert on tobacco policy, or specifically about vaping legislation. There was legislation coming out dealing with vaping equipment and mixtures. I don't know what you call the vaping, the liquids. So he knew a lot about this, and so he said, I'm available as a source. If you're writing a story about this legislation, then I can tell you a lot about what it really means. So that's a way to get reporters interested in you, in a way potentially to break through the barrier of a forbidden topic, because from the distributor's point of view and from the media outlet's point of view, you're not pushing a tobacco product. They don't want to be seen as pushing a tobacco product. And in fact, I think it's against the law for them to be seen to be perceived as advertising for tobacco. So that's a workaround. And a third example is sexual enhancement becomes female empowerment. Now, this is something that I didn't work with on distribution, but I worked with on media outreach, where I was talking to reporters, which was my client was a woman who had an online course for women's sexual performance, for lack of a better term. And we framed it in terms of like female empowerment, which was correct. It was a female empowerment story. But again, it's this, what are you leading with? What's the headline? What's the primary story? The primary story was about, female empowerment, women, feeling empowered to experience their bodies their own way or whatever, with that kind of story versus sex. Not about sex. So that was the way we positioned it. And I wanted to offer these examples to show you there are ways to work around forbidden topics. Like I said, it's not always possible. And sometimes you just have to say, press release distribution is not an option, at least for this business at this time. But there are ways to work around it, and there can be ways if you want to reach out to reporters directly and see if you can get media coverage, which will get you those, backlinks and whatever, and attention. You can go around. You can go around the distributor. The distributor is not the only way to get your news out there. So those are some ideas for our tips and tricks part 1. And I just want to say I'm happy to share my knowledge more with you through a free ebook, which I wrote called Stop Being Invisible. It goes into what I call the ABCs of pitching. Getting attention, bragging, getting the reporters to care, ABC. Gives some examples of press releases and step-by-step guidance on public relations strategies for entrepreneurs. You can access the ebook for free at the link contained in the description below. Click there. And otherwise, we'd love to work with you. We are Comms Factory, public relations for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Thanks.